So, hello everyone. This is Yuri Poletto, the founder of the Open Embedded Insurance Observatory. I will be the moderator today of this webinar. And thank you very much, first of all, to the friends and colleagues of the CareVoice that organized this webinar with us. And thank you very much to our panelists today, Sabine from Alchemy Crew, Sebastien from the CareVoice, Simon from Generali Vitality, and Julian from Cigna. I will let all of them introduce themselves, obviously, when we start the panel discussion. I will make a brief introduction. The topic of the webinar today is around embedded health. Embedded health and the opportunities that this represent for the insurance industry. As I said, I founded the Open Embedded Insurance Observatory last year, and so I will go through a very brief definitions and concepts to set the scenario of embedded insurance, and then we will pass to our panel discussion with our guests. So I will go to share the screen. Here we are. So embedded insurance, what is embedded insurance? Basically, it's about making insurance more accessible to anyone. Not only the purchase of insurance, but also the usage of insurance, which is the moment when customers can evaluate the service offered by insurers. During our researches at the observatory, we have identified 22 categories of products, insurance products that today are distributed through embedded insurance partnerships. As you can see, there are almost all the lines of business of insurance, from the most traditional like travel to lines of business that are considered much more sophisticated, like health insurance, cyber insurance. The embedded insurance market size today is worth $1.8 trillion. Why that big? Because in embedded insurance, we consider bancassurance, we consider all the insurance policies for product protection, so like extended warranties, travel insurance, affinity. So all that models where an insurance policy is sold and used from a non-traditional insurance channel. The potential is huge. We calculated that embedded insurance can reduce by $500 billion the current protection gap, and that up to 20% of the current non-embedded insurance business can migrate to embedded insurance. At the observatory, we do research, ongoing researches on embedded insurance and open insurance by interviewing the market players and by running ongoing market intelligence. And we give back the results of the researches to our members. We have over 40 members, over 40 organizations that join the observatory, insurance or insurance groups, insurtechs like CareVoice, and other companies like BlaBlaCar, Intesa San Paulo, and many others. Tomorrow, we are publishing our first report, Open Embedded Insurance Report. One of the contents of the report is a part with executive interviews. We have interviewed some market leaders of embedded insurance. And of course, one of the interviewed persons is from the CareVoice, Jan Velish. This is the two-pager of the interview, and with also a case study and a company profile, as you can see. The report will be free to download tomorrow. We will share the link in our LinkedIn profile. This was just to set a bit the scenario. And now I will go to our panel discussion. So I would like, first of all, to let our four panelists to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Sabine. Sabine, welcome. Thank you for being here. And please introduce yourself.
Yuri. Hi, everyone. I'm Sabine van der Linden. I'm the managing partner and CEO of Alchemy Crew, which is a commercialization labs. We work with large insurers to enable them to find the right partnership, investment, and potentially acquisition opportunity by applying acceleration and investment methods as part of the process. So nice to be here with you. And thank you for having me, Yuri.
Thank you, Sabine. Thanks a lot. Sebastien?
Yes, hi everyone. Very glad to be here. Thanks, Yuri, for moderating this panel. So I'm Sébastien Godin. I'm one of the co-founder and the CEO of CareVoice. We are a leading Asian health insurtech and dedicated to make embedded health a stronger reality across the industry. So we'd be happy to discuss further about this today.
Super. Thank you, Sebastien. Simon?
Hi, Yuri. Good afternoon and hello to everybody. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. So my name's Simon Guest. I'm the CEO of Generali Vitality, and the company that I'm responsible for is the one that basically manages the commercial agreement, the partnership between the Generali Group and Discovery, which is the owner of the Vitality concept. And I'll leave it there because we'll get into more detail, I'm sure, much later on. But pleasure to be here, Yuri. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you for being here. And Julian?
Hey, good evening. It's an absolute pleasure to be involved. I work for Cigna and look after our Asian health markets and lead our health practice, and look forward to the discussion following.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So let's go through our panel discussion. So Sabine, I wanted to start with you. You are one of the contributors, one of the organizers of the white paper on embedded health with the CareVoice and with Sonor. Can you start by giving us an overall perspective of the embedded health as a trend? And so why you decided to publish and to prepare this paper right now, in this moment?
Yes, absolutely, Yuri. I mean, to answer the question right now, why now, to start with, we actually, during the course of the past few years, I think we have seen more and more needs for embedded product offering, as you actually highlighted at the beginning of this webinar discussion. You also mentioned that there is $1.3 trillion of already embedded health products, but also we have a $1.4 trillion protection gap. So when you start looking at the protection gap, you start realizing that there are a lot of opportunities for new product and services. And so many years back, I would say that embedded finance started with payment, lending. And when I look at the problem from a finance viewpoint and a startup investor viewpoint, I've realized that there were already probably $37 billion that were invested in young ventures and mature ventures to enable anybody to actually become financially resilient. Then in November 2020, Simon Torrance wake up to the fact, I mean, we all wake up to the fact with Simon Torrance's paper on embedded insurance, that there were far more opportunities lying in the market beyond just finance. And Simon actually leveraged knowledge from his finance background to actually show parallels between finance and insurance. He also highlighted in his research that there were probably $7 trillion in the next 10 years that could be represented through embedded finance, but also extended to embedded insurance offerings. And then when we looked at the opportunity with CareVoice and Sonor Global, we realized that actually the opportunity would actually become far more segmented. Because when you start looking at financial resilience, you're also looking at insurance resilience, healthcare resilience, and many people, whether they're young or the elderly, need access to better services, and partly with digital, you can start providing better services to a variety of customers who do not have access to those services today. And so for us, embedded health is really going into the next layer of servicing, providing younger, digital savvy, as well as the elderly, with digital service they need to have access to every day. When again, I look at the problem from a startup viewpoint, right, where investors are putting money, you probably noticed during the course of the past 2 years that investment have been taking place around telemedicine platforms, right? A lot of money has been put into telemedicine and digital first platforms. We saw also that a lot of money were being put in mobile first insurance platform and therefore health platforms as well. Another things which happened, right? I got my Peloton during COVID. Fitness and wellness platform also came about. And finally, we also saw a lot of demand for platforms and capabilities dealing with chronic diseases. So I think that created a bit of perfect storm to start looking at how we can serve patients and people wanting to care for their health better, and also change behaviors, as I think, as well, through embedded health.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Sabine. Sébastien, you have co-founded one of the first insurtechs operating in health insurance and embedded health insurance. We know that insurtechs are one of the leading kind of organizations that are introducing innovation in this field. Can you provide us a few information, your point of view on the current scenario of health insurtechs around the world?
Yeah, I think, yes, thanks for the question, Yuri. I think first, when you talk about health insurtech, it's about any technologies that you can apply across two industries, healthcare and insurance. And actually, just by nature, it starts to be more complex. There are more stakeholders, more regulations, more entry barriers, while the opportunity is huge, as Sabine started to outline. So we've been seeing definitely an accelerated innovations, more initiatives really with impact at scale, investment. So if you look at the story of insurtech, PNC product have been the first generation of product to be really disrupted, right? More simple product, cheaper product. And then in the health insurance, we started to see first same simpler product, let's say just hospital cash lump sum that could be, triggered differently. And then gradually, health insurance impacting specific population like startups, Oscar Health was one of digital carrier dedicated to health insurance. Actually, on the CareVoice story, we set up also a dedicated MGA to a startup for the health insurance needs with Ping An Health first, and then with Generali actually in Hong Kong also. So we've been gradually seeing disruption in health insurance across individuals, across employee benefits, across markets. And now even life actually lines are also starting to be disrupted. I think they came a bit later because indeed they are very highly profitable lines and it's longer term. But we start also to see it. And recently we've been you may have noticed the ULife, a large round, right? More than 100 million US, and it's a UK digital native life insurer, which come really with actually a vitality type value proposition as a differentiation and a pay as you live. So yeah, definitely things have been moving very fast, I think, over the past few years around health insurtech.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much. Simon, Vitality has been is probably the most popular and successful health insurtech organization with probably the most successful business model in this moment in several markets. Can you introduce a bit your experience at Vitality? What are your key learnings, the main challenges that you have faced in your experience so far?
Sure. Yeah, with pleasure. I think it's probably important, Yuri, just to set with a little bit of context, because of course, listening to my sort of industry colleagues here, they come from a slightly different space than when we started with Vitality. So of course, look, I joined Generali many years ago, too many years ago now, to sort of be responsible for the overall development of life and health business across the group. And what you realize, especially when you're a very European-centric insurer like Generali, is that our position, they're very mature markets. Health systems are very much set in stone. Regulation is very much set in stone. When you look at the strategy of Generali and its peers in this kind of business, they are very similar. Products are very Me Too. Pricing is very much a similar sort of approach to how health insurance products and services are delivered to customers. So actually, our initial sort of motivation for wanting to partner up with Discovery and to bring the Vitality concept to Generali was really about can we change the value proposition to customers? Can we put something new in the market, which is less about price and risk and underwriting and claims processes? We have to do that anyway. As a big insurer, we have to focus on those things anyway. But can we change the value proposition and say, look, we'd like to offer products in traditional European markets where we can change the conversation from death and sickness and payment and claim and that kind of relationship with customers to something completely opposite, in which we are generating not only a sort of enthusiasm and motivation for our customers to live healthier, but a different kind of relationship between Generali and its customers who are in this sort of life and health arena. And it's not. I mean, you talk about key learnings, and I think operating in the European market is tough. It's very tough to offer and innovate in terms of product design and pricing, for example, in a lot of European markets. But the other thing is Generali as an organization is a very federated organization. So it's each of our sort of core markets in Europe are very federated in terms of the kind of way that the strategy of those different countries goes ahead, the type of products they offer. It's a very locally power-driven organization and culture. And so what we wanted to do also with Vitality was to say that we were going to have one sort of approach across 7 markets, where no matter whether you were a Generali Vitality customer in Spain or in Poland or in Italy or in Germany, 90% of your experience as a customer is going to be the same. And I think from a learning point of view, this is one of the main challenges and things that we had to overcome, is that really the biggest challenges and the biggest obstacles that you have to overcome, especially at the beginning, are more internal than external. And that's saying something when you talk about European regulation, for example, and competition in these markets and traditional distribution, to then say that the biggest challenges are internal and not external, sort of brings home the message. So look, we had to go through a journey of making sure that the first thing we were able to do is to demonstrate that we were able to have an impact on traditional insurance KPIs, right? So, if we are going and asking to be part of the product development process, part of the pricing process, to be part of how our distributors are doing financial advice and recommending products to customers, you have to be able to demonstrate that you can have an impact on those type of traditional KPIs in order to get the funding before you can start to talk about different and more, let's say, innovative KPIs around customer engagement and how much value you are generating in a relationship with a customer. So this was one, I would say, of the sort of biggest challenges we had at the beginning, was to say, how can we embed ourselves and provide the balance between wanting to have a very unique customer experience across 7 countries, which is mobile first, and it's very intuitive and it's very engaging, but also being able to link that back to generating value for a company like Generali. So, we're in 7 markets now, and I think the other thing to bear in mind is even if there are 7 European markets, they are completely different in terms of business models. So we offer Vitality in the retail space. We offer it sold through tied agent distribution. We offer it direct to customer. We offer it as a corporate wellness product. We will offer it through bancassurance distribution in the coming year. And yet, even though you have, different regulation, different distribution channels, different products that you have to embed the Vitality program with, one of the things that we learned is it's important to, as much as possible, keep that customer experience as unique across those markets as you can, so that you're able to constantly and efficiently innovate the product and bring new features to it and bring a different feeling to that product experience that customers have with you than they traditionally have when they are engaging with Generali insurance companies, around their health insurance claims or around renewal or around whatever it is. So look, I think it's, keep the customer experience as focused as you can, but also know how to operate inside an incumbent like Generali and to prove that you can generate value. I would say that, I could probably go on for half an hour, Yuri, but if you want the 2 or 3 highlights, we can start with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you very much, Simon. Absolutely, very interesting insights. So yeah, basically the challenges are clear, but the results are proving that you have overcome the challenges and made strength, transform the challenge into a strength. Julian. I wanted to hear your perspective here, particularly from within an insurance company like Signal. So, how you are adapting the perspective, your perspective as an insurer to this new trend, this new opportunity of embedded health, particularly thinking to the how you see embedded insurance, how you are, what's your vision about embedded insurance as a Cigna, and what are the main drivers for embedded solutions?
Thank you, Yuri. So maybe I'll reiterate a couple of points from other panelists and then kind of break it out from there. So in its widest definition, embedded insurance really involves offerings being more affordable, they're being more relevant, and they're personalized at scale. And they're really provided at a point in time when consumers need them most. They can be made either available at the point of purchasing a product alongside those products, or they can be integrated inside an existing product proposition. Platform partners are generally brought together with insurers, and one of the drivers for interest here is the ability to overcome legacy system constraints and to really be able to deliver solutions in a plug-and-play platform where, in effect, insurance becomes a service. If I think about the drivers broadly, it was already touched on earlier, the protection gap. So there's a huge protection gap across Asia and all the different markets, and it's a worldwide phenomenon. It's not just one market. It's a consistent theme. Digitization, the role of digital first consumers and their expectations. They don't compare insurers to other insurers. They compare them to anyone they interact with. And the latest surveys I saw only 3 months ago would say 82% of customers in Asia want the experience with an insurer to improve dramatically. You then add in the opportunities to engage with brands that are trusted in specific segments, and also the drive for other brands to want to interact with their customers more than they do today and create relationships. You see segment reach, the ability to reach segments or consumers that your brand would never reach, but in partnership with others would be able to do so. And that's not only just economic segments, it's also age segments. So millennials, for example, who very much are digital first. And then from there, the drivers become the cost advantage, the ability to deliver a differentiated and cost-effective solution. You're either replacing marketing costs for D2C, such as aggregation costs, etc., through these platforms instead, or you're removing commissions and other costs in the structure. So you're able to drive much more affordable propositions that you make available to consumers. And it's done in a frictionless, convenient way. And it will get over to the last point, it drives an inclusion. So it gets over some of the infrastructure issues we may have in some parts of Asia, which are still emerging, such as payment, lack of bank accounts. All of these things brought together enable us to reach many more customers and create an inclusive environment, whilst driving improvements in lifetime value. As I think about it, what are the conditions for success in my mind? The first is culture. a collaboration, a strong partnership orientation alignment is really critical. It's the ability to understand, integrate value propositions, reinforcing the strength of the participants is going to be critical. And the ability to iterate very quickly solutions, taking the data sets to create valuable insights and therefore personalized product is going to be important. Data is at the heart of this. Insurers typically have very limited data that enable them to perform contracts and set up policies. But actually, if you really want to shape and innovate, you need to take lots of data sets, lots of insights to create relevance and then ongoing engagement. You need technology that enables you to move quickly, full stacks supporting API. Historically, insurers have got legacy age solutions that don't enable that pace. And you need to automate the process to keep it really efficient. And finally, it enables you to innovate and create really what I described as personalized, relevant, affordable solutions. And as a result, if you take that to a vision, there's so many opportunities to embed insurance across the board. So I'll just call out maybe a couple. So if you take the rise of COVID, accelerating digitization, one very simple example is now we have a widespread environment where restaurants are now putting their food on delivery platforms, brands such as Chope, Foodpanda, just to name two. Again, insurers can wrap around that, either supporting delivery time commitments, but it can go further than that. Quality of the food, sickness benefits to make sure the food arrives, it's healthy, in good condition. If not, then you're covered for it, through to then investing and creating health savings accounts where health propositions are embedded in bank accounts. And finally, if I just call out a segment, take gig economy workers. This is a good example of health insurance traditionally has been one price, one contract that stays the same and is static. But a gig economy worker is going to be very digitally orientated and is going to want flexibility. Their hours of work will change. They may be people who do website development and then want a break. So your insurance is going to have to be able to adapt to that all the time, be integrated in a digital platform. So I see very exciting space, very much an emerging space that's going to become significant, and a real growth opportunity for insurers with a growth mindset who can really adapt to the digital environment with creative propositions that drive affordability and relevance.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you very much. Sabine, you are collaborating and have been collaborating with many insurance companies in these years. How do you see insurers approaching this intent? What is your perception about? Do you find them ready, well equipped to pursue this big opportunity? What's your point of view in this regard? How you see in terms of the readiness of the industry?
So in terms of the readiness of the industry, I would say you always have the early adopters, fast followers, and the laggards. And I believe we have probably two early adopters on this call. And so I would also like to put it in terms of the three horizon business models, right? When you look at the McKinsey three horizon models, you have the what I call efficiency innovation, which is really about process. Then you have the sustaining innovation, which is more around product and service. And then you have game-changing innovation, which is really about transforming business models. What you see is insurers are developing ambidextrous organizations because they still need to take cost out of processes. With the past 2 years, some insurers did very well, but some did less well because they were not prepared digitally to serve their customers and patients, right, in a very tough market. So see those who are going to focus on efficiency innovation, and partly I think a point Simon made, because we have a lot of legacy still. Some insurers have made so many acquisitions, there are sometimes hundreds of core systems they have to deal with. What I see more and more, though, is insurers focusing on sustaining innovation. How do I put this new product and services to market? It's all about growth strategies. And so that's where digital services offering becomes very important. I'm fortunate enough to work with a few leaders out there who actually wants to be top in the markets. And what they do is they collaborate with startups to start building innovative digital services. So you start looking at startups as enablers, able to actually connect into platforms or existing environments to allow the insurers to tackle this protection gap and to reach new customer segments to actually drive that resilience we already mentioned. And lastly, I would say game-changing innovation is probably lesser. For me, it's when an insurer go and build a digital venture. I think we are still early stage. I've seen insurers investing resources and taking the risk. I mean, when you look at game-changing innovation, right, it's high risk, but therefore there are fewer projects in those high-risk projects because they take 5 years, potentially 3 to 5 years to come to fruition. I always like to put it in terms of unicorn status. Today, it takes probably 4 years to build a unicorn. So you can actually look at game-changing innovation as potentially it would take 4 years to actually get a 1 billion result from an initiative. Not many insurers have the appetite to wait 4 years. They usually prefer to look at smaller chunks projects where they can actually deliver value to shareholders very quickly. Still, I do believe that you have the early adopters, you have those who actually being able to be ambidextrous to do the smaller project to start delivering value, and then start looking at the more long-term initiative, which are really transformative, right? You're unbundling your organization and rebundling it digitally to actually serve existing customers, but actually tackle new customer segments. So for me, it's always about finding the right balance between those efficiency savings and looking at these new growth opportunities.
Yuri, do you mind if I comment on that?
No, of course, please.
Great. I just wanted to follow up on what Sabina was saying about sort of, thanks for the compliment on being an early adopter. But I think one of the other pieces of work that I work on in Generali is how should we shape the future role of Generali as an insurer in the healthcare life cycle of consumers going forward, because historically what we always did and we have to continue to do is what she mentioned about making sure that we are innovating for efficiency and taking costs out of processes. But what you do then is you just limit your thinking to the insurance value chain as it exists. You talk about product design and pricing and claims management and provider management, and how can you take cost out of those processes and digitalize them in order to improve the bottom line. And this will never stop. But what we are doing also is sort of thinking about, if you are a consumer anywhere in our markets and you are going through the process of accessing some type of healthcare, whether you want to just make yourself more aware and educated about your own health, if you want to prevent illnesses, if you want to first access care, how do you want to do that? About treatment, about diagnosis, about getting pharmaceutical solutions for that, about condition management. What we've done historically, I think, as insurers, is focus our time and money on the internal value chain, not thinking about where we should play in the life cycle of a consumer. And this is what we are starting to do now. And then also what's interesting in a company like Generali is we have a lot of those assets, some of them developed internally and some of them in external partnerships that we maybe don't think about holistically enough. So we have Europe Assistance as a business, which is part of the Generali group. There is a huge number of assets that sit inside that business related to supporting people's health journey. We have, one of the biggest employee benefit networks in the world, which focuses on IPMI. But because you focus on IPMI, you need to have digital solutions and services that cover people wherever they are in the world. But we don't leverage that as well in our insurance businesses. So I think one of the things that we are doing now is to say, yes, of course, we have to focus on our internal value chain, constantly deliver improvements to the bottom line through cost efficiency. But maybe there are roles for us to play as an insurer more widely in that life cycle of how consumers interact with healthcare, and what are the right services and solutions to do that. And of course, what you cannot then do, and in setting up the Generali Vitality business years ago, I made the conscious decision not to link it to any internal historical IT issues that we have. We set everything up independently, and outsourcing a lot of that stuff is, if you can run it independently and separately, then you're able to test those services and play in other parts of the life cycle faster and see where customers are interested in you playing a role or not. And you won't get it always right, but I think there is a role there to have a much wider impact than we do today.
And Simon, you're absolutely right. Customer need to, I mean, I see a lot of insurers realizing the customer need to be as a center of whatever they do, so 100%. And I think with the impetus around sustainability, ESG, there is also more recognition that we need to focus on the segment of the population which probably need those services the most as well.
Hey, Yuri, can I just add on to Simon's point quickly? Because I think it's really interesting. And just going beyond the sort of embedded products and just thinking about services as well and tests, as Simon called out. We tried a very interesting experiment where we effectively set up a JV in Australia where we rebuilt, took a house stack, a product stack immediately, went digital, cloud-based, NIB is the joint venture partner, a health player, obviously well known in Australia. And basically our first customer, so providing services to them in the health space as opposed to insurance. So things such as return to work propositions, which are driving readmissions down, reducing the cost of healthcare, driving affordability up, and effectively building a series of health pathways and programs that are really designed to create sustainability by driving better health outcomes, but actually reducing the cost of healthcare as well. So driving really affordability, predictability, and better customer experience through digitization. And so again, going back to that reimagining a health player, this is an example of a business model that we're running out and we're probably 18, 24 months in. So just wanted to add to Simon's thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for those insights. Yes, it looks like really we are in a moment where insurers are understanding the importance of hearing at the customers and effectively being more focused on what customers are looking for rather than what themselves as insurers can offer to customers. And this is one insight, one thing that emerged also during our researches at the Osservatory, particularly about product design. So we reached out to a number of players in embedded insurance and asked them, what kind of products do you make available to your embedded distribution partners? And the answer was, the insight from the answers was that to make an embedded insurance program successful, it's important to co-design the product, the features, the customer experience with the distribution partners or with the non-insurance company that then offer that product to their customers. And so, yeah, all of this is sustained all together to make insurance progress towards becoming a more customer centric. It's a very buzzword, not being customer centric, but effectively this is the step that insurers need to do to continue being successful organizations in the market. And talking about business models, Sébastien, what's your also referring to your paper? What's your point of view? How do you see business models offered by insurers evolving in this arena of embedded health?
Yeah, I think we heard already a couple of examples, right, through either Simon or Julian's experiences and also vision, right, on the industry. But through the work we did overall with Sabine and Sonar folks and a number of experts, we've identified four main business models. One is around more the distribution enablement, player that are going to really contribute to selling more health or life insurance. And I would say one example that I've been said before, like in the embedded insurance space, you take the gig economy, the drivers, and you simply embed a very simple hospital cash lump sum, or in case of COVID, and you cover that, right? And potentially you can have service to help, this population also to access more simply services, because they don't necessarily have a full medical coverage and so on. But you have also in this category, much larger initiative. And if you refer to Ping An the Doctor, for instance, where Ping An built a full ecosystem of integrated offline, online services, and ultimately to attract consumers and sell insurance policies. It's building a full offering for ultimately enabling distribution totally differently. That's one. I think another one is more around pure digital health player, and here it's mostly digital native carrier or MGAs, and actually the key differentiation and the value driver that they bring to the market is really around these digital-based health services that make a difference, right? They are here first to deliver health value to their customers. And I mentioned earlier Oscar Health, which was one of the first digital carrier. And they actually, one of their very simple feature was around intuitive medical navigation. You have a health insurance, it should be part of your standard offering to help your policyholders to easily understand medical services, which medical centers, which medical professionals, what is covered, and so on. Alan, more recently in this category, who is a leading health insurer in Europe, they started to help their customers around kids' health, how parents can help on that front. They acquired a company in mental health, so really leading their value propositions through health value. So I would say this is a second category and model of operators. The third one is more actually referring to Vitality, who was an historic company that feels as an ecosystem orchestrator, where the orchestrator come to aggregate multiple players in a given ecosystem, where the final customer and each player in the ecosystem are going to extract more value. And Vitality has been doing this around this, physical activity engagement, where it's integrated with and it's connecting with multiple devices, different health apps, gym centers offline, marketplace to reward. So that's also a model that I've been witness. And last is more about providing health as a service. And here, these are platforms, enablers, could be even down to operating systems that enable to connect various technologies, services, insurance systems, hospital systems, and enabling the exchange of data that are necessary ultimately to bring into an operational flow and delivering more data-driven, customer-centric customer journeys. And the models or the players in that front could be across the industry, and there are some bold initiatives. You may have heard about Commure in the US, where they're really ambition to do it across the industry. But then you have also much more laser-focused players like Lifen in the hospital space, or CareVoice, actually our company in the insurance space, right, helping insurers in that front. And those categories are not necessarily mutually exclusive. You can see also some overlap. But I think these are the main four models that we've been seeing so far. But again, things are going to keep moving, and look forward to witness more validated models at scale.
Excellent, thank you. And to do all those great things, great models, great value propositions that you mentioned so far, insurers need capabilities. So this is a question open to all of you. What do you think are the current capabilities of insurers that can help them build this kind of business, and where are the gaps? What are the areas where they need to work? So who wants to start? Maybe Julian. What do you think?
I tend to focus on where we need to improve area, and sort of think about the challenges one faces. So again, the way I'd think about this is, I think you firstly got to have a clear view on how you're going to do tech. So what's your answer on tech? Are you building yourself? Are you partnering with someone who's got these capabilities to help you accelerate? Are you going to make it inside your organization and set it as a standalone that you can leverage? I think you've got to be really clear on that as you go into this space. I think you've got to be purposeful from day one and say data is key. So I think you've then got to embed data into everything you do to create the insights and create the value. And I think that's a lesson that insurers are learning. And again, going back to the earlier point, the data sets we can get access to today are far richer than the data sets an insurer usually asks for. So how do you bring all that together? And I think the other piece is then about having a real entrepreneurial commitment. It's tempting for insurers to look at embedded insurance in a very simple way and see it as a pure distribution play, chance to sell more products and get more customers. But you need to understand that it affects the whole value chain when you start to go down this path. So it's going to affect the way you price, the way you underwrite, the way you service, the way you handle claims, etc. So you've got to go in with your eyes open and think more broadly. Otherwise, I think you're going to make mistakes. And the product propositions need to be very configurable so you can update them and iterate them very carefully. And also, it would be tempting to put a proposition into a space and expect the volumes to follow. But I think what insurers need to do is then have a dedicated group of resources that continue to focus on this, take those learnings, and an ability to see the process end to end and see where customers aren't converting, where customers are dropping off and why, and really transform it. So I think these are really key areas to address. I think insurers are in very different places in terms of their capabilities along there. And I've seen some very interesting examples. So out the healthcare space, for example, telematics is now commonplace in Europe. Italy is one of the pioneering countries where you are today, and the US. Interestingly, in Thailand, for example, telematics was relatively unsuccessful. And one of the reasons was that most insurance carriers perceived that their revenue would fall because the average premiums would fall because people were rewarded for the quality of their driving. Ironically, you'd go into underwriting profit, but the insurance mentality at that point was more around, but my revenue will fall. So it looks like I'm getting smaller, even though actually the business you write becomes more profitable. So this comes back to that, really understanding what you're trying to do, being purposeful about tech, the way you measure, the way you engage, and moving forward. And with the non-insurance partnerships you touch on, they've got huge digital presence and traffic. They've got great customer engagement opportunities and interaction. They've got great brands that are trusted. So that can be leveraged in a very powerful way. Great sets of data, high volume of customers, and often linked to great tech providers themselves or partners in the ecosystems who can provide the tech and the business model that Sebastian called out earlier. So that's kind of how I would think about the areas to address and where we are.
Thank you. Simon, you explained us your experience at Generali and the process of implementing Vitality, which involved also some changes and adapting the Vitality model to the internal organization of Generali. In terms of capabilities, what's your experience? What capabilities did Generali Group had to achieve and learn to launch and run the Vitality program?
Yuri, it's a great question because I had the privilege to actually begin this business sort of 7 years ago from a blank piece of paper. So we had to sort of come up with a proposal on how to actually get this business from an agreement in principle to go into European markets to actually making it live. And I would say it in two ways really. When you do something like Vitality, what you are basically producing is what you hope will be a scale and very high engagement business with customers. And to do that, you cannot rely on the architecture, the technology, the processes that you previously have with insurance, even with something like motor insurance, where the frequency is higher than in life or health insurance. You have to create an operational setup and an ecosystem that's able to deal with the volume, with the fact that all of a sudden you are having to field, and solve problems around why I don't get my points for doing 10,000 steps, or where's the discount on my holiday, or my voucher didn't work when these are questions that as insurers we are not used to answer, and so you cannot rely on existing systems, processes, and people. And so what we set up here was a very outsourced model. We decided that we work with a lot of external partners who are partners in the Vitality program, but they have they have a sort of stake in how successful we are, because they are also in it to generate traffic and to generate revenue and to generate customers. And so when you are dealing in that kind of environment, you need to make sure that you are working with organizations that are used to delivering customer service in that way, that are used to delivering platforms that work in this kind of industry, in this kind of environment, and not necessarily in insurance. So you need to prepare your business model in that respect. So actually, when we set it up, the number and the size of the Generali based team, and still today, is not huge, because we realize that we need external expertise to manage that. And then of course you need to become good at vendor management, and you need to ensure how to make sure that the data flows from all of your ecosystem partners end up in one place, and you're able to interrogate and work with that. These are important skills that you need to acquire. We still have, being very specific, we still have issues around finding, good IT architects, like most people do these days, who can come in and actually create what you are looking for. So you can have a vision, but you need to be able to convert that into what you are looking for. But on the other side, what I would say is when we started, what I did want to do is to also look inside Generali and find talented, young, innovative people who understand insurance business and the basics of it, because that's important too. I mentioned at the beginning, we have to demonstrate that we can generate value in insurance business. So, we also went looking for those people inside the group who had that knowledge, but we're looking for an opportunity to go and work on something completely new. And so I think that balance was important for us. We got people who had some experience in insurance, knew the group, knew the culture, were able to talk that language, but we're looking for something, a new opportunity to develop new skills. But then when you need that sort of platform or technology solution, you have to go and find partners who are used to operating in that kind of high volume environment that you don't get in insurance. So it's a mixed picture, but I think it's one of the great learnings of actually setting up a business like Generali Vitality, sort of not integrated into Generali, but sitting on the side, but having to interact with all of the insurance businesses and distribution networks that we do. It's one of the the privileges that you have when you try to have a business like this, which is driving innovation in what is in some ways a very traditional industry.
Of course,
Yuri,
yes.
if I may expand on what Simon just mentioned, because we've been working actually quite closely with Prudential Financial, the US one, who also have a partnership with Vitality in Latin America, and through that we've been of course witnessing some capability gap that Prudential was looking to fill in. So I think maybe it's interesting to mention here. So I think the one aspect is, how do you really create a more holistic health and well-being offering? Of course, Vitality is a very interesting piece and part of a well-being offering, but we've heard some other example. I think Simon mentioned, for instance, Europe Assistance has a number of assets, and there are many ways to help people with their health. But at one point, how can you have a capability to orchestrate a health and wellness ecosystem that is going to cover a broad healthcare journey, that is going to be able to tailor to different populations who have different needs, which is then for sure a driver of onboarding and engagement, because people find something that they need for their health. So this is something that we've been seeing is very challenging for insurers, because then as soon as you want to work with many different technology partners, different health value, and you want to bring them into one roof and deliver this to your customer, and I think Simon was referring to this technology architecture. I think this is where definitely there is a one gap, and then it's more about the integration with different insurance systems, different benefit management, because the way insurers deploy those type of solutions have to ideally be much more linked to the insurance product. The insurance benefits can impact the insurance product themselves in terms of underwriting, in terms of pricing. And most of the time, those potential experiences are delivered totally outside the insurance experience. And just because the ability to integrate with many different insurance systems, and even within one insurer, I think Sabine was saying some insurers have hundreds of systems. So how do you have capabilities where you can create a layer between your different core systems and a customer-facing solutions that are going to easily connect with the different insurance system, but also manage the insurance experience or insurance-related services in connection with a health and wellness value proposition. So I would say this is a second capability where we've seen some needs from insurers. And finally, it's more on the mobile side, right? How do we empower much more flexible and configurable customer journey from a mobile experience? Because insurers have many different distribution channels, many potential ways, and I think Simon was referring to it about the way they operate Vitality. And so then you may not use one single app with exactly the same across your channels. You may have to have more flexibility in the way to deploy potentially even those channel partner to empower their own digital assets. So I think this is also a potential capability gap for insurers.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. And Sabine, so we mentioned partnerships, so acquiring part of the capabilities from externally, from other external providers. Simon mentioned finding internal talents to involve in those innovation processes. How do you see? What's your point of view in this regard? How do you see insurers moving in this space in terms of partnerships, in terms of finding and activating internally the talents? I guess it's not must be not so easy for a traditional insurance company, but for any kind of big organization to find the talents internally and to activate them in specific projects, and maybe also to activate like an entrepreneurial mentality in these young people. No, so what do you think? What's your point of view?
Well, I see some market players definitely trying, but I think everything comes from leadership and strategy, right? It's about also looking long term as to where we want to be, where the market is going, and how we actually as insurers want to build resilience. So what I've seen in some initiative I've been involved with is that some internal talents are definitely wanting to be part of this, I would say, innovation initiatives, and they may actually be located all around the globe. So it's creating a bit of a system, what I call, starting industrializing a process, a framework to invite an internal audience to feel excited to actually go into the journey of creation, ideation, and commercialization as well. I would not say everybody is up for it, but it's very much a specific persona, which is much more hunter-gatherer, entrepreneurial. Definitely is what I've seen in the initiative I've been involved with. But it's also bringing from the external world that entrepreneurial environment, that entrepreneurial mindset and thinking. So it's also working with young ventures, growth ventures, to actually provide that lens around how do you create something with limited resources and this, fast moving approach. Because usually big organizations, they have the resources, but people not always very fast at doing it. One day in startup world is probably 10 days, 1 month in corporate world. So we need to also rebalance that. And what I see, it's a journey. So it's not expecting for it to happen first year round. It's about setting up the framework. If you mind me saying, the processes, thinking about the outcome we want to achieve, and putting together some aspect of innovative processes to enable the ideation and the execution to take place. At the end of the day, it's about execution and also having KPI we can monitor and measure. But then imagine if you have this group of like-minded like-minded people working together, then you can start democratizing. So what I've seen is some initiative which actually start centrally with a small group of people can then go into other countries where you can self-manage and enable people to use the framework to start doing it themselves. And then it is super encouraging. It's not easy, right? But it is super encouraging when that happens. And the method we are using usually are entrepreneurial methods, right? How you actually understand the customer, how you actually make sure that the product is suitable, the offer services is suitable for the target market, using that experimentation approach, right? You test all the time and you try building irrefutable evidence. And then lastly, it's about making sure that you can actually apply the KPIs, the viability, the validation, that it can be done once and multiple times. And then it's iterating and trying to make sure that it sticks. But it won't take a year, right? Its initiative takes several years to succeed.
Absolutely. Excellent. So I think we are at the end of our time for this webinar. Obviously, if some of the other panelists have other comments, something that they want to add, we can do it. If not, I will thank you all our four panelists for their time and for the interesting insights and point of views that they have shared with us. I hope that you will enjoy this webinar. Thank you again to the CareVoice for co-hosting this, and looking forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Interesting.